All right, you guys, I know we are a little late, but we just came from a coach share, which let's give a shout out to Rachel Fitton, who I called on today at like 10 a.m., you know what I mean, when we found out our Erin Booker is not feeling well. So let's all, if you guys are the praying kind, let's pray for her because she has not been feeling well. But Rachel, you guys jumped right in, through her comfort zone way out of the window and jumped on with me and Sherry, to deliver what I thought was a really, really good webinar that shares our heart, you guys. So, that's why we're late. So I promise you, when stories are being told, I don't like to cut them off, if that makes sense. And I want to make sure people get to see the whole opportunity. That's something that you guys take note of. Craig Holliday taught me that 6 years ago, that we have to get the whole opportunity in front of people. People have to get a picture for what it is. Otherwise they have these preconceived notions, these ideas about what these icky at-home businesses are. How many of you guys are one of those? Come on, own it. I'll own it. I did. I was like, I am not doing that crap. But anyway, so it definitely went over a little long, so I apologize, but I promise you it wasn't because we don't care. It's because for those of you that had people on there, we do care. But we have an amazing, since we're late, we're going to skip the recognition piece, as numbers are still coming in from January and we're getting all those tallied up anyway. And then we started July. You guys should have seen that. That's where we pull our recognitions from. That's how I know what you guys are doing. Otherwise, you guys, I'm so blessed to have an amazing, awesome, large team. But if you guys don't fill out those recognition things, I'm not a mind reader. I know sometimes it looks like I do. There's only one person I know that can kind of read minds. Her name's Erin Schaefer. Have you guys ever noticed that? The girl can get in, she used to live in my head. She knew exactly what I was thinking. It was awesome. But I can't do that. I do not have the Erin Schaefer skill. So you guys have to fill those out so I know what you're doing, you know what I mean? So that I can give you the recognition that you deserve, but I can also see, if you're struggling, we can go back. I keep those sheets. I can go back and see okay, well, we didn't invite much in, May, and usually when you don't invite, it doesn't show up in June. It shows up in July and August. Does that make sense? It skips some time, So we are going to jump right in with the amazing, look, she's gorgeous, you guys, just absolutely gorgeous. We're going to jump right in with the amazing Christan Evans. Go ahead, unmute yourself, girlfriend.
What's up?
How are you? Wow, girl, you make me look bad. But I did wear my patriotic headband. I'm going to need to get you to teach me how to do my eye makeup, by the way. That's just a side note.
Take appointments,
Okay, sign me up. Sign me up. So Kristen's going to talk about today when we talked, and I took notes. I already took notes for the call. Haha, I get to hear it twice. But when we were coming up with, I said, well, Kristen, when we were coming up with the name, I said, give me one word to describe how you feel your life is now. 6 short months later, you'll hear her story in a second. She in her very sapphire way, she said, awesome. You know what I mean? Those of you that have been to Danny know that is a Sapphire's favorite word. And I asked her, what did it used to be like? Going through the motions, kind of zombie-like. So from zombie to awesome, in 6 short months, she's going to share with you 4 things that if you apply, no matter where you're at, how you can get to that awesome. Okay, so Kristen, I want you to kind of share your story with them a little bit, where you came from, how this came about, what you've been through, just to give them kind of a picture, a glimpse into your journey.
Awesome. Okay, so, I'm excited. This is, when, they say when your stomach's hurting and you're you're nervous, but that means I'm doing the right thing, right?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. So, I've been a coach it'll be 5 years in December. But it's been the craziest 5 years of my life. I grew up I'm a daughter of a truck driver, and my grandpa was a door-to-door salesman, and I was working at the mall for 12 years. So sales, all that fun stuff, right? And my life is going along, and a lot of I don't know, just bad things happened all at once. And you can say that like I kind of got just hit in this face with like all this pain, and it just crumbled me. I lost my dad when he was 55. It was 3 weeks after his 55th birthday, and my son Dominic was a month old, and basically like my world collapsed around me, and I was depressed, and I was broken and very lost, and I don't know, my world imploded. By the time I got to Savannah, which is where I live now, I was starting to try to like pick up the pieces and know that like I didn't want to live like that, like how he had, because he sat and smoked, he didn't take care of himself, and like I just knew that I needed to change, and I didn't know how to do that quite yet, but I started putting all these little steps, just taking these steps forward. And by the time Summer like reached out to me and was like, "Hey girl, I think you might be good at this thing," I was like, What are you talking about? I'm like, I need some friends or something, right? Like, okay, like, yeah, okay, let's do that, right? So I just kind of jumped into this blindly, and just started talking about it because it did make a difference in what I was doing. Like the community did, the team, everything. And I started like just jumping right in, sharing it, signing up coaches, doing all that thing, but I was still struggling with belief. And I was having all these ups and downs in my personal life. And I eventually like went through a divorce, and I was just completely struggling. And, it took this team, and it took my very first coach, Lisa, to like reach out to me and say, "Girl, you're still that same person that was there. Like when you first signed up, that person is still there. You just got to go find her." And, that was almost 2 years ago now. And ever since then, it was like, I'm going to do this. And I have a son to take care of, and there's nothing that's stopping me but me. So I dove right back in, and, I got surrounded by this team, and I kind of like stopped wondering why I had this blessing in my life and just started going with it. And just stop trying to figure it out and just pay it forward. And, that's where I'm at right now.
And so much has changed. I mean, you've always, like Lisa was right. There's just this very special spirit inside of you. I mean, obviously you guys can see like the energy is like radiant. You can't help but smile when you're in a room with Christan. Any of you guys that have been around her at Danny or Summit or anything like that, you guys know that. But even more in the last 6 months, there's been like this, woo, like I can't even explain it. You know what I mean? She played such a huge part in my recovery since surgery, just reaching out and checking on me, her and Aaron Booker and stuff like that, and helping, and so much of that change has happened in the last 6 months. That belief in herself, that she could help me. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? And that love that I felt from you. But it started with, you have 4 tips. And I'm excited to hear you talk to them in case they feel like, they've been hit, their life's imploding, whether they've been through a divorce or lost a loved one, you know what I mean, or struggled in different areas or a hard upbringing. These 4 tips are something that can pull people from zombie, going through the motions, it is what it is, to awesome, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm just going to hand it over to you, girlfriend. You go.
All right. So the first tip is to treat it like a job. And I say that because, even in the last 2 years, like I found myself going through these motions of, okay, I'm going to send out an invite, or I'm going to, go in the challenge group. But it wasn't until I was like, you know what, I'm really going to give it my all, and I'm going to treat it like this is what my job is. And it gets so easily become just comfortable, and where we're not staying consistent, or we're not doing a schedule. And it took for me going to Danny and realizing that like the 2 years of me trying to figure it out by myself was not working. So it took me saying like, okay, I've got to do something different because it's not working. And so I started doing a schedule, and I started following this recipe, and I realized that like that schedule is freedom. Like it's like my nights free with my family. It's just, I don't know, it gives me my happiness, which is so funny because normally I'd be like, schedule, like it scares me. But
yeah, I remember when you hated schedules. Remember you told me like, I don't like it's not my thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, like you were you didn't thrive in that until I feel like you decided to thrive in it. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I just decided like it's not working. I know what every day was feeling like, and I know that I was continuing to just struggle, and I want to know what it feels like to succeed. And I needed to just kind of like submit to this process and say like, I want to be where this person is, or I have a goal, like I have a dream. Like
What is it? Tell me.
there are people that need me, you know. Like I am a survivor of childhood abuse, and it took a long time for me to even be able to say that and realize that like that's part of my story, but I got to own that. And there are people out there that need me, and I'm going to pay that forward. And so there's going to be a house in like 3 years, you guys, that it's going to be the coolest thing ever, and everybody's invited. But it's going to be the biggest retreat, and it's also going to be a place that's safe for these kids to like heal and feel like themselves and be safe to like grow into awesome people. And it's, you know, it started, I wasn't even able to say that out loud before until you asked me like, what are you going to do if you can't fail? And I'm like, you know what, I can't fail. Like, cause I decided.
You decided.
I decided, like, period, end. And the crazy thing is that I see it everywhere. Like when people decide, you can see it in what's happening in their lives. Like, it doesn't matter if they're like working like 30 hours, 50 hours, like if they're stay-at-homes like me, like as soon as you can see it in their life. And like, you know, I think about like, you know, I don't know if you saw that, like with the post I did, but like I've got like rock stars on my team, right? Like I've got like, you know, Marlene and Joel, like they're like rocking the heck out of this. And it's like, they're working 12-hour shifts, you know, they work tons of hours a week.
As
like,
nurses, right?
Right. Marlene's a nurse. Yep. And so it's like, she is like, you know, but she decided. And it was like, you saw it last month, she was at like SC10. This month, like her and her husband are like SC15. Like, and it's crazy because they're scheduling it in these little tiny cracks of time. And they're not, you know, that's it. It's decision. And then
they decided.
Yes. And I keep looking like, you know, in the whole team of people, and it's like, you've got people like Jennifer Wood, who I see her and I'm like, man, she's like SC13 again. And I'm like, girl, this is amazing. And she's like, what? Like, this girl is like a rock star. You know, she's like 45 months at Success Club. Like, she's flipping amazing. And, you know, I have to ask both of them, like, what are you doing? What have you, you know? And they're both like, both of them said, they decided that this is my job and I'm going to stay consistent, and that the key to this is showing up every single day and following up with people. And they, you know, they decided, and that's what you've got to do. You've got to treat it like a job.
Yep.
And you make that decision.
Yeah, I love that, you guys. I want you to write that down. I took notes, as she already told me this before, but I took notes, and that law of decision is vital. You guys, and sometimes that decision, once you start to become consistent in your schedule, after you decide, you make a schedule, you become consistent, you start to have these small victories that create that belief that you need to keep going. But without the decision, without the action, those small victories can't come. That's like saying, you know, like you wouldn't say this, right? You wouldn't say, you know, once the fire gives me heat, then I'll put in the wood. You know, it just doesn't make any sense, right? You put the wood, you get the heat. So I love that. That law of decision is like, circle it, you know, tattoo it on your head. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But that is vital. That is vital. Okay. What else you got? What's number 2?
Well, I guess like, I don't know. I guess for the last part, like number 1 would be like, because you're treating it like a job, like I realized lately that even at like a normal job, you recognize like your coworkers for doing awesome things, and you have to do that the same thing with your team. Like whether it's a personally sponsored coach, a cross-line coach, a whatever coach, you've got to like reach out to them and support them, because this team is awesome and we're all better together. And I'll touch more on that later, but like you got to love everybody, like wrap your arms around them and find these like gems, you know?
That's because you reap what you sow. You know what I mean? If you sow that encouragement into other people, you will reap encouragement. You know, again, some of us are like, well, I'll encourage her when she encourages me. Okay, again, we're going to go back to the wood example. Okay, like we don't ask for the fire to give us heat first before we put in the wood. Okay, it's the law of reaping and sowing. Okay, so if there's anything you're missing in your life, you can apply this to your marriage. If you're like, man, I wish he was more fill in the blank. Well, you have to sow that first. Does that make sense? Okay. You're going to reap what you sow. In this business is no different. That was good. That's really, really good. I didn't have those notes from last time today. That's good.
You know, I just come up with this stuff. No.
I know. I love it. I love it.
No.
Okay.
So the second one is something that's, I don't know, it's been on my heart a lot lately, but it's giving yourself permission. In general and in life, give yourself permission to be who you want to be. Give yourself permission to succeed. You know, I think about, like, we have all of this freedom in our life. Like, I mean, we just got off, 4th of July, where everybody's celebrating all these freedoms. And, you know, we are free to think about anything that we want. We can choose to live any way that we want to. You know, we can talk about whatever. We can do anything. We can pursue anything that we want. But it's like, what are we doing? You know, what are we choosing to live like? Who are we following? Who are we, like, living like? And, you know, we're watching all these people instead of just living our life. And, you know, honestly, there's, like, never been a better time in, like, the way I feel about things. But I mean, there's, like, a voice in me that's like, you got to step away from this, like, herd mentality, you know, and be the exception, and let yourself have this permission to, like, be who you are and let the past things go. You know, I carried around a lot of hurt for a long time, and I would go through all this, like, forgiveness and think about things, but I just still carried it because it was like, I felt like I had to defend this, like, weakness. And I realized, like, why was I doing that? You know, like, why am I so quick to defend this? You know, and I don't want to spend my time, like, saying, like, well, I can't do this, or, you know, arguing to, like, keep these things that are keeping me down. And I realized, like, I found this saying that says that if you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them.
Wait, say it again.
If you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them.
That's good.
So if you give yourself permission to succeed, you're kind of saying, like, look, you know, instead of looking into your past, you know, whatever that is that's holding you there, you can just release it. And you can stop being scared of inviting. You can stop being afraid of failure. You can stop saying, like, what if, why not, you know, why not? Like, instead, like, go be this person. Like, go, like I said, step away from the, like, scared fear and have permission to, like, live this amazing life. Because half the time that's all we need is just saying, like, hey, here's permission. And, you know, if you need
you know, how did you get that? How'd you give yourself permission? Because, you know what I mean? Like, how did that, like, how, like, if someone's struggling with that right now, what do they need to do to give themselves? Is it just life and death is in the power of the tongue, or, you know what I'm saying? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's part of that, like, you know, going back to defending your weaknesses. Like, instead, for me, I've kind of, like, flipped it, and I just said, you know what, I'm these awesome things instead. Like, I defend the strengths in me, and those are the things that I'm, like, clinging to, instead of clinging to, like, oh, I can't succeed, or I'm not this way. Like, I just flip it immediately, and it doesn't come overnight, but you're like reprogramming yourself. You're gosh, like, I mean, it's like the first thing you would say, I used to say to someone was like, gosh, I don't know. Like, I don't know that. Like, I'm not good at that. Like, instead, I want to be like, no, I can do this though. And, you know. So,
yeah. You know what that reminds me of? I'm sure you remember this, Christan, when we were we were in Utah for leadership. And her name's Danny J. Her name's actually Danny Johnson, but it's not the Danny Johnson you guys are probably thinking of, but equally cool girl that I met through Jessica Rodriguez, and we had her come out to do a little training, you know, and that's what that reminds me of, is where you flip it immediately. So, you know, you guys might want to do something like this, is write down, get a piece of paper, and all the negative thoughts that are coming out. And Christan, tell me if this is what would help you, and then you flip it immediately. So if it's like, I'm not good at inviting, you have to flip it immediately, right?
Absolutely.
And write something down that would be the opposite You know what I mean? Because and cling to that side of the paper. You almost like you could take the other side and crumple it up and throw it away symbolically and cling to this, like Christan said, cling to these things. You know what I mean? That are positive, about yourself. Another cool thing that Danny J did is we had to write down all the negative things about ourselves. We didn't know this was coming. And then we had to go through a line, and we had to tell, like, it would be me, it would be, Christan, what's one of your like things that you wrote down there?
I was unworthy.
Okay, it would be like Christan standing across from me and saying, Summer, you are unworthy of this business and of anybody taking your hand and trusting you to lead them anywhere. Like that would be crazy. Christan, you would never say that to me, right?
Nope.
Right? So why say it to yourself? We are clinging to the wrong thing. We need to cling over here. We have to give ourselves permission over here. And I think that becomes a day-to-day thing. Correct, Christan?
Yeah. I mean, it's constant. It's not, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to constantly put these things in front of you,
Yeah.
Which is tip number 3 is get it in front of your face. Right? Get it in your face, people.
Yeah. Get it in your face.
Get it there. It's the belief. It's the one thing that made give you that courage to be like, yep, I'm going to be a coach. I can do this. Like, we all have those moments where you're like, I am a rock star. Like, I feel amazing. Like, sometimes, like, I don't know, it's whatever. You wake up and you're like, I am all that today. Whatever that feeling is, you have to stick that belief like right in front of your face. And like, that's the stuff you want to go to. Like, that's the stuff that's going to like pull you out of bed in the morning. You have to, like, I don't know, I set reminders in my phone, like all of these like positive affirmations, and I just pick things, and I like every few hours I just get like a fun alarm, and I'm like, oh yeah, hear my music, I'm awesome right now.
I love that. I love that. What are some affirmations? Do you mind sharing if someone's struggling with what those affirmations might read if they were to, are you willing to share?
I gotta look at some of them. Like the first one in the morning is, I live my life by design. That's a good one to wake up to. Right?
Which is good. Let's talk about that for just a second. That's a good reminder in your face, because a lot of times we play the victim. You know what I mean? We pretend, we claim that we don't have any control over our life. You know what I mean? Like, this is just how it has to be. No, honestly, it's not. It does not have to be that way. You know what I mean? You don't have to have your kids in 3 sports. You don't have to be running all over the place. That's a decision. Now, if that's something that's important to you, that's fine, but you have to recognize that was a decision. It's like the same decision that Noelle made. If any of you guys are watching Power Positivity, her and her husband made the decision when their lease was up not to be miserable in another lease. They bought a mini Winnie and started living and traveling. I mean, you should have seen the view behind them. That was a decision. You know what I mean? Life by design is something that we like throw around there. It's only for the people that, no, you don't have to make a ton of money to live by life by design. What do you want it to look like? And then decide to make it look that way. Okay, what else you got?
I have one that says, I'm a rock star, just because I needed something fun. Like around 2:00 every day, I get that alarm and I'm like, ooh, like that's a good way to just knock you out of a funk. Like, hold on a minute. I've been sitting in traffic before, kind of like having road rage, and I'm like, oh, I hear my alarm. Like, that'll pop you out of it real quick,
Yeah.
And then I have like a business goal, I have something that reminds me of like, oh, wait a minute, this is why I work every day. So
this is what I'm fighting for. We have to keep that in our face. We have to remind ourselves why we show up every day. You know what? You just reminded me when you said that you're a rock star. When Chad and I went to it's called Raw Leadership with Bo Eason and David Scott, man, one of the things that Bo told us that his dad, and you guys can start doing this for yourself, okay? And you can do it for your kids. You might want to word it a little differently than how Bo's dad did. But every single day, multiple times a day, he would say, Bo, you're the best, damn it. You know what I mean? Every single, Bo, you're the best, damn it. Over and over. So Bo, growing up, I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best. You know, what you believe, you know, is what you can see. What you believe, like, is what your feet will do. If you think you're the best, guess what? You're going to go out and you're going to do things that enable you to become the best. Does that make sense? Like, when you think you're the best, you practice more. I tell you what, you show up more. You carry yourself different. You hustle different. When you truly believe you are, and that's what his dad ingrained. Here's the thing is, you don't, if your dad or mom didn't do that for you, you are now an adult and you can do it for yourself. You can put a reminder that says, you're the best, Summer, damn it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could put that, and it, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever you want to say. Maybe you don't want it to cuss. I don't know. But that's his story, and he programmed his kids that way. And he went on to play professional football, and now he makes an amazing living helping people learn how to tell their story. Why? Because he believes he's the best. And you carry yourself different when you believe you're the best. And so these affirmations are no joke. You know what I mean? It's just the way that Christan did it. She might not have had anybody telling her that. So now she has to reprogram herself, right? The same way Sherry Beasley had to reprogram herself, you know, being abused and all kinds of things. The same way that Christy Vincent had to reprogram herself. And it's not something that different, you know what I mean? It's the same. Jessica Rodriguez had to. I had, you know what I mean? We all have to. We have control. We have control from here forward. We get to control it. Okay, go ahead, Christan. You got anything else to add to that?
I would just say it's basically just getting it in front of your face. It's actually like living like the person that you just gave yourself permission to be. That's it. You're just pushing it farther, you know. Give yourself the permission and then live like that. Just be that person. And then you'll wake up one day and you will be. That's it.
Right. So here's the question. If you're like, okay, let's go back to the bow story, okay? And let's apply it to Beachbody. If you woke up every day telling yourself you're the best, damn it. You know what I mean? That kind of just sounds better. You know what I mean? Like if you're, anyway, you're the best. Okay. So identify, what does someone that's the best at this business or that's a rock star at this business, what do they do with their time? You have to identify those things, right? And as you believe them, you start to do this checklist. Does that make sense? Okay. So someone that is a leader, someone that is a, you know, is a six-figure earner, you know, what do they do with their time? What do you need to, since you've given yourself permission, whatever it is, I'm just putting it out there as a six-figure earner, what you've given yourself permission to succeed, maybe that's one of your goals, right? What does a six-figure earner do with their time versus maybe that you're doing with your time? I can guarantee you that when Janelle Summers was building this business, she wasn't watching The Bachelor because she worked full time, okay, like long hours, had a young son. Do you see what I'm saying? Like she taught classes. So what has to change? Okay, what are some things that you can attack once you got it in your face? Why is it important? You're reprogramming yourself. Now it's time to identify how a rock star carries themselves, like Christan said, right? Right? A rock star does things differently than maybe the zombie did, right?
Oh, absolutely.
What have you noticed? What are some differences between Christan back then and Christan now?
Well, I am following my schedule, obviously. Like, you know, my day-to-day is like, I'm freaking waking up at 5 a.m. Like, does anybody know how crazy that is for me? Like,
that's crazy. Yeah, I only know because we've talked through it. You know what I mean?
Right? Like I was the one who was like always just speaking these negative things into my life. Like, I'm not a morning person. I don't do anything before like 8 o'clock. Like, nope, don't need to do that. And it was just these little steps of like the old self. Yep, I own that. The new person, the like awesome person that does not want to be a zombie anymore, says, you know what? That's not serving me. And you know, we came back and you know, Drew and I went to Dynasty a month ago, and we came back and we were like, look, it was hard for me, it wasn't hard for him, but I was like, I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. That's what we need to do to like free up our schedule. This is what we're gonna do. And I changed it. Like, I let that stuff go. Mom now, like, I'm reading stories to Dominic, and like we have our whole night like free, which is so cool. Like, I tuck him in at night. Like, it's just awesome. We have just fun, and that's the stuff that I want in my life. I want lots of fun. I want lots of adventure. I want like, and like,
yeah.
just get all the like Beachbody work out of the way so I can go live my life. Like,
right. So you had to change some things so that you could design the life that you wanted. And one of them was getting up at 5, right? One of them was also getting ready. See how ready she is? Every day this girl looks this good. I mean, that was a decision, though, that she made. I remember when you made the decision. You know? It's incredible. And you have a plan, which usually Christan and plan didn't used to go in the same sentence. Schedule, all of that kind of stuff. But I love that. That's great. And she made a decision. That ties back into number 1. Okay. All right. What's your last one? Your last one I love. Oh, I love all of them, but this one is great.
Yes. So the big thing is do not be an island. Okay. Like, get off of your island. You're not out there with like Wilson. You don't know.
Wilson.
It's not you and Wilson. Like, you do not need to be by yourself. Okay. And like you were just talking about all of these coaches. Like, all these coaches, Sherry and Jessica and like all of these people, right? Like, we do not have to do any of this by ourselves. Like, I did not like change my life 6 months ago by myself. I intentionally got myself around people because what I was doing was not working. And, I am guilty of thinking like I'm the exception to the rule. Like, Beachbody stuff, like these scripts are not going to work for me. This program does not work for me. Like, I am, nope, I'm too much. Nope, it's not going to work. Summer did it. It doesn't work for me. Like, I'm going to reinvent everything. Like, I'm so guilty of thinking like I am the exception. Like, I mean, I'm special, but I am not that special. And things work. Okay. And I think that like we get just stuck in these things like, well, my customers are different, or, the people that live around me don't have any money, or, whatever. I can't lose weight. Like, it's silly. Like, you get around people and you put yourself around this team and you realize like, oh, wait a minute. Like, Aaron thought the same thing. Like, like we all thought, oh my gosh, but I wouldn't have figured this stuff out had I not like jumped into a challenge group, right? Like, I wasn't even like running challenge groups before because I was like, man, I don't really need that. I can just sell these programs to people. Like, you show up, I won't. I'll just be like, you can do it.
Yep.
It was no. And then I realized like once I started showing up in these challenge groups, right, like actually doing it, and I got around people in the team and I found like my friends. I found people that I'm like, man, I didn't know Erin Booker until October of last year, and now I like could not imagine the rest of my life without having that girl as my friend. And there are numerous people on this team that I'm like, wow, I can't believe it's taken me so long to meet you, but like, you're not ever leaving my life. And we all have these common threads, and it's like we all think that like something isn't, we struggle with thinking like, man, I can't do this, or it's not going to work with me, or something like we all have these issues. We have something going on, and it's like when we get around each other, it's kind of like we get this like flash of like, I don't know, reality, and we're like, wait a minute, I think we're just being kind of silly or stubborn, and it does work. And you hear from people that are like, nope, it works. Like, crap, like, okay. And then you kind of have to just go and change things. So, I mean, if you are instead, swimming away from your island, and you're like, you realize that like when you get around each other, that you're like strong and awesome. And I say it like I feel like we're all like just like the Hulk, like we're like superheroes. And it's like we get fired up and we get our batteries recharged and we're like, yeah, like we can do anything, because we realize like we're pretty cool people. Like, we have a kick-ass team, like we've all struggled with some stuff. Like, when we went through that exercise in Utah, we all realized that we all had very similar fears. We all had things that we were thinking about ourselves that were just blah. We didn't need to own those anymore, and we all had to get rid of them. But we like moved out of that and we got stronger for it. And that is the very best piece of advice I can have, is do not do any of this by yourself. Like, get in these challenge groups and like find somebody who is like, I kind of like that person. Like, I like Erin. She was cool. I'm like, hey, I'm going to like start messaging you, and then you become best friends with this chick. Like, and then you meet people like Danny, and you're like, oh my gosh, like Christy Vincent and I have the same brain, and we didn't know this. Like,
that's funny.
And
right.
You're like, oh my gosh, and like, you meet people and you're like, man, these are my homies, you know.
These are my homies.
These are my homies, and it wouldn't happen if I kept swimming around on my little island, because I did that for 2 years, and look where it got me. It didn't get me anywhere, you know. It didn't get me home with my son. It didn't get me like taking care of him and being able to like help more people, you know.
Yeah, I love that this came up today, Christan, because before you and I talked, over the last week or whatever, I haven't really told anybody, but on July 18th, I'm speaking on the National Wake Up Call, and I had to design it. And it's on creating momentum. And this was the number one thing I put. I said it differently. You know, I said birds of a feather flock together. You know what I mean? And that matters. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing. I might use your saying, don't be an island. You know what I mean? Because it does matter. Who you surround yourself by does matter. It empowers you. It lifts you up. It quiets those negative voices. But if we remain an island, which is, and I'm not putting Christan down, we've all been here. It's an ego thing, right? It's a thing like, no, I got this. You know, I don't need that. I'll just go this way. I'll branch out here. I'll do it all by myself. And that is the fastest way to stop momentum. And that's something that I'm talking about is that we are stronger together as a tribe. You know what I mean? There are things that Christan Evans can give you guys that I can't. And for me to think that I can provide it all is egotistical of me. You know what I mean? Like to think that I got this, Christan. No, I don't need you to help. No. You know what I mean? No, Christan can connect with people like I can't. You know what I mean? Just like numerous people, everybody on here. It's why I don't always do the Coach Share webinars. You know what I mean? Because the beautiful piece about this team is the fact that we flock together. You know what I mean? And we lift each other up. We empower each other. There's a book that some of us are reading, but there's a couple hundred people in there. It's called Famous in Heaven and at Home, and it talks about this, how important it is to love and empower people. Not everybody has that, right? To encourage, to be that encouraging voice in someone's life. That's what we do for each other. And when we are an island out here and no one's encouraging you, right? So those negative voices, right? Those failures that we all inevitably have, okay? We all are going to have. And if you're an island, those voices of failure, they get a little bit louder. You don't have anybody quieting it. You don't have anybody taking the load off your shoulders, right? So this, you know, I know a lot of people think like I'm going to look weak if I don't go off and do this by myself. That's an ego. That's a complete ego. You know, it's why events are so powerful, because you get together and you do the Scott-Man connection that our team is just naturally, like, you guys are some flipping awesome people that connect. And you know what I'm saying? Like, Christan is one of my coaches, Aaron is one of my coaches, and they connected like this, a bond that I could have never filled. That's why this is so crazy cool. You know what I'm saying? And then there's numerous examples of this, but the most recent one is Jana, who I met at a Danny event. I don't know how far down the line she is. I can't even honestly tell you her exact upline is. I get them all confused, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We connected at Danny. For some reason, we were supposed to be there, and we pray for each other. Do you see what I'm saying? But I couldn't have done that by myself if I would have said, no, I don't need to go to those events anymore. Y'all got it. You know, you guys get it. I'm good. I would have never had that connection. There's numerous, connections like that. But you get what I'm saying? As an island, I wouldn't be where I am today as a person in peace. Does that make sense? Do you have anything to add to that, Christan?
No, I just think it's right. Like, it's like you said, in finding your peace. Like, all of these people that I've been blessed to like be around the last 6 months. Like, and honestly, the biggest difference in the last 6 months than the last year and a half was that I got my butt to Danny, and I actually did that because of people on the team, because of people's stories, because I plugged into a team call and, listened to other people. And I was like, man, something in that related. And it wasn't even you. And that's another example of it. Like, you could be saying the same thing, and then I had never clicked, but you hear it from another coach or, you know, just someone on a different team, and you're like, wait a minute, that's what's resonating within me. And that's what's going to get me to action. And it's all of these people along the way that I've met, you know, like there's a girl, like, in another thing, it's like, you don't know how far that down in their downline they are, but like you meet them and you connect. Like I just got to visit with one of the coaches, like, I don't even know where she is in the downline, but I'm like, man, like I met her at Danny, and it's like I got to see Carrie in Panama City over the weekend. Like she was there, and she's like reached out to me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm here. Like, where are you? You need to come here. And it's like you said, like maybe a year ago, I wouldn't have thought like I had any kind of value, or I would have been happy on my island.
Yeah.
But like getting around people and being like, you know what? No, I want to socialize and I want to get around these people and encourage her.
Yep.
Because maybe that's all it took. And that was encouraging to me too, you know?
Yep. Absolutely, you guys. It's the reason like we as a team work so hard. All of us, like there's multiple people that go into putting together the Danny like events. Getting you guys through the doors is a game changer, but also like the cherry on top is getting you surrounded so you're not on an island. You know what I mean? So that you might hear a story from where Layla's come from, or where Christy's come from, or Chris, or you just never know, Aaron. You never know what story that's going to resonate with your heart. You know, it's something that you can't get over here on this island. You know what I mean? So we can just bring that one on home. I mean, I just keep circling it. Like, don't be an island. Don't be an island, because there's just too much awesome that comes from all of us being together. I mean, I learn and grow. The reason I keep going is because I'm still learning and growing from you guys. You guys inspire me every single day, every single time we're together. It's, again, something, if I went and sat myself on Leadership Island or something, like, you know, like you see some people do, like, I'm just going to go sit here on Leadership Island by myself. No, come back to this island. You know what I mean? And if you don't, you know, an island that is heavily populated with amazing people. So get off your island, get back on this island. All right, Christan, any closing word, any closing advice, anything that we've left off? Or if you could give them one tip right now, just one, like what's on your heart right this second. If they're, you know, no matter where they're at, what would it be?
I would say that you need to constantly be putting your story out there. Do not like change your story to what you think people want to hear, or like what reaction that you want, or what you think you need to be. You own who you are, and you show your life, and the right people are going to latch onto you, but you have to know where you're going, and you, like you said, you drive your train, you're on this train, you're still going, and recognize that like once you're getting your story out there, people do whatever they want with it, but people need to continually hear it.
Yeah.
There's always different ears hearing it, and you know, enjoy your life. Don't ignore things that are happening in your life because you're stressed or you're overcomplicating. Just love it. Love your life. We have a good life, you know?
Yeah. I love that. Share your story. The story, and those of you guys that are going to be at Summit in a couple weeks with Scott Mann, you know, him and I were just texting a little bit today, like the storytelling, how to do that, how to connect. We're going to help dig even deeper. Why? Because that connection is vital, and you connect through stories. At the heart of all of us, we are tribal. That's why we call it, like, this is our tribe. We are tribal, and we connect through stories. So to connect, you have to be willing to tell your story. It means you have to be okay with where you came from. And that's what Chalene Johnson says. When I did a training with her, she said the people that are going to succeed are going to be the people that are okay where they came from. They're okay with who they were, and they're excited about where they're going, and they're not afraid to tell the whole thing. This is where I was. This is where I'm going. Get on my train. Do you know what I mean? It's those that are going to succeed. We're going to help you at Summit. And then those of you that will be with us at Danny, you know, we tell stories all weekend long to connect. So I'm excited to hug you guys. Christan Evans, flippin' inspire me. I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for sharing your heart. I'm so proud of of who you've become, who you know. You were always this person that you gave yourself permission to be that person. So thank you for sharing that with me. You are absolutely awesome, and I'll be hugging you very, very soon. Team Courage, thank you for being patient with me as we were a little late today. You guys are awesome. Go out there, be the encourager, love people, tell your story, and make the decision today to treat it like a job, because your vision, your goals deserve that commitment. I'll talk to y'all later. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.